Good morning.
Good morning.
So, Efren, as a designer, what's a common problem that you have with your clients?
As a designer with clients, I say the biggest problem is really communication.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's talk about communication. Hello, everybody. Today's episode is called Crafting Clarity Between Designer and Clients. And in this episode, we will talk about how to improve the process of design by communication.
hmm
So, could you kind of tell us an example of a time when you had poor communication with a client and what exactly happened?
Well, I want to say when I first started as a designer, uh, when it comes to communication, I guess I thought I knew the way I do my work.
Mhm.
But as a designer, there was one client where I had to create a logo, and you kind of worked with the brand as well.
Mhm.
And she asked, "Could you make this logo look pretty?" And
Interesting.
to me, I was like, "Okay, pretty." And thinking, oh, "Okay, I can make something pretty," but not knowing what the client wanted. But I'm going with what I wanted. So I was
Mhm.
like, "Oh, okay, let's make it pretty." So didn't really ask any questions about it, and I just made it pretty. I forgot what the design was, but whatever it was, I gave it back and said, "Hey, here's what I got." And she's like, "That is way off from what I wanted." But it's like I did not expect the color pink or something. I wanted it blue. I wanted it to be the ocean. I was like, okay, I think miscommunication there that you wanted it to look like an ocean, not a flower or something. And I think that's where I've learned that communication was the main key when working as a designer and as a client, and not just client, but not the work that I do now,
Mhm.
construction media designer, or working with like SMEs or creating these medias for learning. We have to have that communication that is this how we want to teach the learners.
Mhm. Yes, I can actually relate to that as a media designer as well. I think I remember creating a project and I was very pleased with it. But when the SME had looked at it, I guess they were not so happy with the style because it looked too cartoony. And so I think making sure that both parties agree with the style is very important. Have you had an experience as a working with instructional media and the SME? Have you had an experience where you created something and the SME was not so happy with it either?
I'm trying to think. I guess because I've learned that communication was the key for that. So
Mhm.
I think there was one where it wasn't a design, but it was more of a script of
Mhm.
learning. Just say it was a multiple question uh, for the students to do like a quiz or something, but are more
Mhm.
interactive. But it didn't go with the feel of what they wanted, and it
Mhm.
wasn't the right questions. So I think that's where we had to kind of communicate. Is like, oh, what are we really trying to help the students learn? I thought we were just kind of giving them oh, here's the correct answer, and that's all. But they wanted like a more deeper understanding of the subject.
Mhm.
And I guess my what I did was it was too broad.
Mm.
It was perfect. It was just straight to the point. But it's like, oh, they want two sentences, kind of describing what it what it is, you know. So that was one issue that I've ran into. But it's always a learning process with this. We have to always remember that um, it's not always what we want it to be, but
Right.
clients or the SMEs or even the learners.
Yeah.
hmm
So I noticed, like, when we deal with clients or subject matter experts, sometimes when we have a vision in mind, and there are times where they themselves do not know what they want. So, what are some steps we could do to help them know what they want?
There's one thing I learned. So communication is asking the right questions.
Hmm.
um, for the job that we do, we have to understand that we need to ask the right questions to get what the client wants. So, good questions. Let's go with some easy ones. Is what color do you want? You know, what feel of style are you trying to get? Or what kind of how did we want the students to learn this? You know,
Hmm.
and that's where I come up. I can make the decisions as well, and I can kind of give them feedback. But one good thing is to always have these questions prepared before uh,
Hmm.
communicating with the design. So always have these outlines prepared, or
Yeah,
even for these meetings. Say, hey, here's one of the questions I need from you, or so we can get started when we first meet. So it's
that's really
prepared. Hmm.
asking the right questions. So we have what's the feeling you want to convey? What's
Hmm.
the style? Maybe what's the message you want what's the message you want to communicate? Another good question, or what are some examples that inspire you? And examples are very important, I think, when it comes to any type of prototyping. Um, uh, do you want to elaborate more on that? Examples?
I, tr- uh, there was one where they gave me a picture of a person. I think they wanted to make what is it? Like someone was breakdancing, right?
Uh-huh.
But they're like, "Oh, can you make this look like it's a competition or something?" And I was like so confused of what they wanted me to do and the colors they wanted, and that's where I kind of like asked a lot of questions.
Hmm.
Who, like, I said, who is your target audience? Is this just for like students or at least for adults? So that's that's actually a good one to ask. Is like, is this for the kids, or is this like for
Mm,
fun, or is this professional? And that's where you have to, as in the marketing world, you actually have
yeah,
to ask who's your target audience, and understanding what is on the designer side is the brand identity
right. Hmm. That's a good
and
one.
desired tone and style of what you're going for.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Okay, so as a recap, some of our questions are: what's the feeling you want to convey?
Mhm.
What's the style you're going for? What's the message you want to communicate? And who is
Mhm.
your target audience? And what is your brand?
Yeah, those are just some of the simple things you
Question.
want to ask him. Yeah, but for you as as a professional, these are the things that they're kind of like you are helping them. You know,
Hmm.
you're helping them pull out these ideas. That's what you're doing. You're like they don't know what, we run into situations where the clients or the SBs don't know what they want from it. So that's our job to come in and put these ideas and asking the right questions to
Hmm.
make their, I guess, their dreams come true. You're like, oh, these are my ideas. One great thing with the clients is like, oh, I have all these bright ideas. It's like, I don't know how to put it on paper, and that's where like I'm excited to put this down because
Yeah.
this is what I love to do. I like to create and people's ideas and make it happen. But
Yeah.
those are all the simple questions that you said is to get it started.
I know, I think for me, when I had hired a designer as well, and I gave them some examples of what I wanted. I even drew it, but maybe it was because my drawing was poor, and I didn't like when they gave me the final product. I wasn't happy with it. I ended up hiring another
Hmm.
designer. So it's just maybe, what do you think that there is another, like, let's just say someone does provide a designer an example.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's still possible for the product to come out wrong?
It's
Even if,
always yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I've had I've been on the other side where I'm the
Yeah.
client, and I
Oh,
give them all these examples, but it's still way off.
huh. Why do you
Uh,
think that
but
is?
but that's where both end has to be very patient on each,
Mm,
and patience too. Not only communicating, but having that
yeah,
patience that there is always still going to be miscommunication on the design.
yeah.
Um, it's just that's where we collaboration comes in.
Mm,
Kind of understanding each other of, oh, we can get this together, we can get it done. It takes time. It's not like we're gonna get this done by today. It's
yeah.
always going to be going back and forth and doing edits. Just be prepared when it comes to designing any type of media, especially for learning media or designing brands and logos.
Mhm. I think what I noticed as well, patience is very a good point, because I think, as we go through the process, sometimes our vision changes. We want this, and then after you see something like maybe another mock-up, and you're like, oh, actually, I like that. So you're very right. You're spot on with the patience.
I've had the issue. You're like, oh no, never mind. I want this idea now. I was like,
Exactly.
we worked 3 weeks for this. Why would you want to change it? But, anyway,
Those are some great tips. Asking the right questions and patience.
patience is always is another one. That's
Any
awesome.
other last tips on how we can improve the communication between designers and clients?
Always prepare yourself before meeting up, before
Mhm.
having any type of communication of creating or designing anything. Is prepare. Be prepared before this meeting.
How can they help? How can they help prepare themselves?
Basically, the simple answer is look online for any outlines for with designers, with client.
Mhm.
What questions to ask as a designer for clients, and there will be great outlines out there, or you can just come up with your own. Everyone has their own strategy of conveying their message towards any design.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's some great advice. We all hope you enjoyed this and you can learn from it when you work with your client or when you're designing something. Remember, communication, patience, and be prepared. Again,
Thank you.
thank you, Efren. This episode is sponsored to you by Ascend, the Master of Science in Instructional Design and Technology program. For more information, you can scan the QR code that you see on the screen. Again, this is what learning feels like, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks, I'm Rana Lee.
And I'm Efren. Bye.